Now here is Natalie Wood, who can be seen in a motion picture called The Last Married Couple in America, starring George Segal. And I haven't seen this, but I have a suspicion it has something to do with marriage. Huh?
You're right.
Well, we've all had a lot of experiences in those lines, haven't we?
Yes,
I've had some.
I've had
you know,
some.
I've always wanted to ask you this. I was going to save it, but how come you got married to Bob Wagner again?
Again?
I mean, and how does it feel when you marry your husband after you divorced him? And if you don't want to talk about it, we'll pass.
Oh, it feels terrific. I don't mind talking about
Okay.
it. I was just fortunate, you know. Timing was on our side. We happened to meet at a time when we were both free. The fact that we both had feelings toward the other one, we didn't keep to ourselves. I mean, we managed to convey that, because I really had no idea that R.J. felt something still toward me, even though I knew that I did, and he felt the same way and didn't know if I did. But luckily, we didn't keep that to ourselves, and so, you know, like that.
Do you ever wonder, or did you at the time, why do we as people go through all this baloney and then we get the divorce and we still have feelings, but somehow there's a wall and we can't get through that wall and talk to each other? How do those kind of things happen?
Well, it's just life, I guess. I mean, you know, I think that's what the picture in a way is about: communication, you know, and being open and not keeping things to yourself. And a lot of life is chance. So
I'm not going to stop. Did you think for a single second, when you and R.J. split the first time, that you would ever in a million years marry this man again? Ever?
I don't think I ever thought so. The only thing is, I kept both of our wedding rings, the top of the wedding cake, and all of our photographs, and he kept my stationery, and lots of stuff like that. So somewhere, subliminally, maybe we did.
Isn't that funny the way that worked out, though? And I won't tell your license plate, but I love it. Absolutely, because otherwise they know what your car is and all that stuff. Now, this thing about the last married couple in America, is this like a spoof, or is it a serious statement on marriage, or both?
Well, it's humorous. It's a comedy. It's not a serious delving into marriage. But I think it tells some truths, honestly, and I think it's a pretty good look at life, particularly in Southern California. You know, I think it explores the subject of commitment, the subject of marriage. Is it going out of style? You know, do people sometimes feel, this particular couple that George Segal and I play, Jeff and Mari, unlike the part I played in Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, which also sort of explored life in the 70s and what was going on, they were sort of seeking new experiences and trying to make their marriage better and all of that. But Jeff and Mari really are happy. They've gone through all those things and they've worked it out. We have 3 kids in the film, and we're really happy. But what happens is everybody around us starts splitting up. And the first thing we do is become, first of all, defensive, because people keep saying, you're not really happy, are you? And we're just saying that, you know? And so we start saying, well, we are, you know? And then eventually it becomes about peer pressure. And
you mean where you go out and show everybody how happy you are? You go home and beat each other's brains.
Well, no. He, you know, George succumbs, really, to this life that everybody says, but you're so boring. I mean, you go to a party, you show up with the same person, everybody knows who you're going to show up with, and so forth, you know, and here we are having such a great time, and so forth. But underneath all the fun and the humor, all the people involved in the picture really do have long marriages, which is interesting. I mean, the people behind the picture, the writer, John Shannon.
Have you ever lived outside of California for any great length of time?
Yes, I've lived in London for periods of 6 months to a year.
Do you notice a difference in people when you leave California? What I'm getting at here, in line with what you said about being married in Southern California, there's something different out there.
Well, there is. I mean, I think that in Southern California, and part of this is in the picture too, I mean, the weather is wonderful. You know, there is the beach. A lot of emphasis is placed on the body and looking good and feeling good and jogging and now roller skating. I had to learn to do that, which was terrific. You know, I love doing that. The encounter groups kind of seemed to start there, and the different offshoots of that. There was Esalen, and then there was actualization, and God knows what else. It does seem to be a place where some new ideas start. But I do think that now, because of a lot of reasons, women's lib and and so forth. It's no longer that you have to get married, that you have to be married, otherwise you're not terrific, you know. There are other choices. There are other lifestyles you can choose without anybody saying,
yeah, the lace
matter with
curtains
you?
parting and people
Yes, and you don't have to get married and have 2 kids and, you know, all that. And so I think in a way it makes you question, since you don't have to, what if you choose to, you know? And I think that's positive. I think it's good not to have to.
Remember the headline in the paper out there? I think it was in Orange County that one year 78 more people got divorced than got married, or as many got divorced as got married.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't hear about that, but I heard the new statistics was 1 out of 1. I mean, out of every marriage, there's going to be a divorce. That was a statistic that I read everywhere.
Yeah, well, same thing. Yeah, it's like saying marriage is grounds for divorce. Okay, but there was this headline one morning. Excuse me, where it said, I think it was Orange County. It might have been another county, but I think it was Orange County. That as many people got divorced. You know, they keep all the records of who gets married and divorced.
Yes.
And I thought, wow. Because you'd always heard the number 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 3.
That's right.
Now it's 1 out of 2.
Yes, yes.
Does that bother you at all?
Well, it doesn't bother me personally because I'm not a crusader for marriage.
No, I understand,
or
but just thinking about the whole thing where they talk about the breakdown of the American family, people aren't getting divorced, kids don't have good homes, and that's going to somehow affect the future of the country as we go down the line into the 21st century. People think, well, you know, we've got to get back to more basic values. Do you ever think that way?
Not exactly. I think that it's very important for kids to have stability as they're growing up, but I don't think that necessarily means legal marital stability with a couple who's staying together because they're unhappy because they think they ought to be, you know. I mean, I think that children need to know that they're loved, and I think that's the most important thing. But I personally think it's good that there aren't these strict rules, and I don't think it's a good idea to go back to those strict rules. I think it's good that we've moved away from them and hopefully find some new roads and new relationships that are still good for kids, you know?
But you went back to the strict rules.
Not really. I mean, I think for me, I'm doing something that I used to think was not allowed, which is that I'm married and I have 2 beautiful children. I have a stepdaughter also, beautiful, gorgeous. I have ex-stepchildren that I'm very close to and love very much. I've got a big family, and I'm working. You see, I used to think you couldn't do that. You either did your work and that was it. You devoted your life to that, or you gave it up and you became a wife and a mother. And I think a lot of women are saying, well, now wait a minute. I would like to try. I'm not saying that it can be done, but I'm going to try to do it and see if I can do it without the kids suffering, without my husband suffering, without me suffering, and without me feeling that I've been deprived of expressing myself and so forth.
When you remember that you mentioned Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, which at its time was a breakthrough picture of sorts, as have been other pictures that you've done. About every 10 years, it seems, you come out with some breakthrough picture. And when Bob and Carol, remember it showed the picture of you and Elliot Gould and Diane Cannon.
And Bob Culp.
And Bob Culp.
All in bed together, yes.
Did you have to pose for that? Or was it taken from the film, a little clip?
It was taken from the film, or maybe on the set. I think it was taken on the set.
Well, like when you're getting ready to shoot that scene, and you all have to climb into the bed together, you know what I mean?
Well,
was that funny?
It was. Well, we were supposed to be embarrassed, and we were embarrassed as hell. And Diane and I really were making sure that we were all covered up and that we weren't really nude and everything. And it seemed so shocking, and I mean, it was good for the scene, I think.
Was it a hard scene to do?
Well, no, it wasn't really a hard scene to do because the embarrassment that we all felt was built in. It was really real. So I think that was good. The only thing that was difficult about the scene was that it was shot in some different ways. I mean, it was cut in a different way. The film ended where we had sort of an encounter group, which I thought was a lovely way of ending it. But it was kind of like then there was another ending, and then there was another ending. And so at the end, Paul Mazursky decided to do the ending of us walking down the hallway in the song, What the World Needs Now is Love, and then seeing each other outside of the place in Vegas. He thought visually was more interesting.
I remember, wasn't that the picture that the opening scene was taken at Sandstone? Didn't they?
It was taken at Esalen.
Or Esalen? Like, did you have to go there for research or anything like that? I mean, this is dumb to be talking about a 10-year-old picture now when we have a new picture, but I want to know what happened in that bed when you four were in there.
I'm trying to think. We weren't allowed to go to Esalen. I think Esalen was mad at us at the time. And in fact, I had forgotten this, but I was on Merv Griffin's show the other night, and he reminded me that I walked off in a huff because when I was talking about Bob and Carol, because there was somebody there, a counselor from Esalen or something, and he thought that we had negatively portrayed these encounters and that we had been, you know, laughing at them and so forth. And so I thought he shouldn't have said that or something. I don't really remember exactly, but it seems like I was a little more uptight then.